Hello and welcome once again to the Dwarven Tavern. I am your host, Lyric Owens, and with me in the tavern are...
Ian Goins.
And Dr. Jeff Goins.
And today we will be talking about some questions that you all have sent us. These were emailed to the Dwarven Tavern, and I think they're pretty good. I've actually read through them.
They actually, yeah, I glanced over a few of them, and they're good questions.
I know nothing.
One of these was actually given over the phone. Someone called, okay. And we actually had to write it down real quick. So I think this one could actually be asked first.
Okay.
Just get it out there.
Read away, young reader person.
The first question is from Anna from New York. And she says, I have daughters in gaming, and I am worried about them socializing with boys. They are young teens and can't find any other girls to game with. What do I do? That is a very good question.
Very good question, Anne.
Anna.
Anna?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Anna. Very good question. And there is, there are a number of possibilities with that. The first and least desirable is not let them game. Okay.
I wouldn't recommend
Pretend
that.
I never said that, because that is not an option.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think?
Well, I think if you're really desperate, then you should also learn how to game. And I say this because my parents learned how to game before I was even created. And I mean, they were my players, and I'm the character. And this is how I turned out, which I think is a positive thing.
I'm pretty happy with the way she turned out.
So if you're
stats.
really worried about your daughter's gaming and them not having anybody to game with, I think family gaming is super important. And if you get involved with it too, then that's just something else that you can spend time with your daughters. And I mean, that's positive all the way around. Now, if they don't, I mean, if you don't want to game, or if they don't want you to game with them, then perhaps maybe finding a school group. Like, I know schools don't actually encourage that, which I find ridiculous.
Well, the more religious schools sometimes frown on role playing for whatever reason. Because of the references to things that aren't necessarily good. I'm sure you guys have seen the Jack Chick comic strips and all the anti-D&D and anti-role-playing games propaganda out there because of religion, and we won't get into that in any depth. But
that's a video all in itself.
Yeah. There are school groups in the more open-minded schools.
Right.
And
there
plus,
are colleges that have
even if you don't go through a school officially, that's still a really good place to network and find fellow gamers.
Right. And I have to say, being worried about them interacting with boys, I don't think that that's anything to worry about, because male gamers of that young age, your girls will wipe the floor with them with their creativity and intelligence. That's just my personal belief, but...
Yeah, and well...
I'm a feminist.
You are not. You're a... And so there are... another thing that I do want to mention is that you're not talking about jocks.
No.
You're talking about gamer boys.
Gamer boys, very specifically.
There is a huge difference in...
they don't know how to flirt.
They don't even know what girls look like.
It's like, wow, you have really long hair.
You're a weird-looking guy. You're lumpy.
How about this? You were a gamer boy in junior high and high school. If a few girls came up to you and say, hey, we want a game, but we have no one else to game with, we heard you're a gamer, how would you react to that? Would you use that to get away with stuff, or would you actually want to game?
Remembering from myself as a young gamer guy, when a girl said she wanted a game, I'm going to get laid, never came into my mind. It's just like, wow, she could roll up a freaking paladin or something and we could fight and all. Yeah. So yeah, sexual aggression wasn't in my vocabulary as a gamer guy. What about you?
I can't say the same.
You're not helping.
Well,
I've seen you in
Never-
action, dude. You can say the same.
Boom.
but
All serious.
that's it. But I'm not really sure how I would respond to that. I would probably start asking, like, how much of gaming do you know already?
Well, see, that's the whole point, is that the first thing that comes to mind isn't I'm going to take advantage of the situation and make it a lot more adult than it needs to be.
Yeah.
I being a huge gamer, all of my gaming groups were mostly men. And that's just because of the gender divide in the gaming community. That's something that just can't be helped.
Right.
Yeah.
So there was actually a point in time in my high school years where the only people I gamed with were guys. And since I was the only one that I was actually the most experienced, because I've been gaming since I was in a stroller, I was the most experienced, so I just basically taught them everything they knew. And I just spawned more gamers that way.
Yeah.
So I have to say, don't worry. If you are worried, maybe invite them over so that you can see the relationship between your girls and their friends to make sure that everything is, PG-13. But otherwise, I don't think there's much to worry about.
PG-13 if they are 13.
If they are 13,
PG-13 is not cool for 12.
No. 12 and a half now. It's
I
not.
never thought of that.
So, next question?
Next question.
Okay. This one is directed to Dr. G. Dr. G, I have a major issue that needs immediate addressing. Bum, bum, bum.
Bum, bum, bum.
One of my players is a super stuck up. Oops, I read that wrong. Is super stuck up and metagames way too much. Say no more. For example, I sent a bunch of owlbearers after this person. We'll call him Mark and his group. And Mark threw a giant hissy and actually stopped the game because he pointed out the monster manual. Pointed out in the monster manual.
The monster manual!
That they
actually is
were,
the monster manual.
Well, it's the monster manual.
that they were a challenge rating of 4 when his character in particular was only 2nd level. The rest of the game campaign was the same level or higher. He was oh my god, I can't read. He is notorious for going over the top with his rule lawyering, and it's getting to the point my other players are complaining, but Mark doesn't see anything wrong. What can I do? Jake from Orlando, Florida.
Well, there is a reason that I have real swords at my gaming table. I am just kidding.
Only slightly.
Slightly. Metagaming is verboten, which is strictly forbidden
Yeah.
at my gaming table.
It's ridiculously annoying, is what it is.
Been
There-
there, done
there-
that.
there-
Read it every minute.
Correction. It's not... Metagaming isn't anywhere near as bad as being a rule lawyer. Ever.
Well,
Hands
metagaming and rule
They
lawyering
kind of go hand in hand.
are,
They do.
are synonymous.
They do, but rule lawyering is worse.
They're
But, because it's like, okay, pointing out that they're owlbears is annoying, but that's how you convey, it's like, those hairy beastie things. This is what your character would say, if you know they're an
Owlbears aren't
owlbear.
hairy, they're feathery.
I know.
feathery, hairy feathers. Like the apteryx, a wingless bird with hairy feathers. What comic strip is that from?
Anyways, because it's like, as soon as they learn that it's an owlbear, they're like, okay, those are owlbears. Even if they know the stats, their characters don't. And if they're like, the owlbears totally have like 4 HP? 50-something HP.
Roughly.
And they're like, okay, I need to hit this 3 times. It's like, you don't know that.
Right.
And you're like, oh, you hit it 4 times. Rolls 2d10. It has 20 more health now.
That's just...
That is
That's
the
already
single
underneath.
most irritating thing in gaming that I know of. I mean, I don't know of many other things that are more irritating. Now, there's several different ways that you can handle that as a DM. Number one, you can impose a metagaming penalty for experience points. Every time they metagame, take off 30% of the experience points that they were going to, and tell them.
Yeah.
It's your game, dude. or madam.
Or better yet, you
sorry,
could wait
no,
until the
madam.
very
Dude
end.
and or madam.
You could wait until the very end, and then, I mean, like, okay, now Jake, Thomas, and Michael, you all get 5,000, while Mark, you only get 200. He's like, what did I do? He's like, you metagame
You
the
metagame
entire
throughout.
series.
You metagame throughout.
And that's like a reinforcement.
What I usually do is when the metagame like really hits hard, I just basically change what's going on. Because it's like 2 owlbears versus 4 second level characters. 2 to level 4s versus 4 level 2s makes perfect sense to me. And players do a lot more damage than an owlbear does, especially if they're even remotely equipped. But, you know, they go after it and they're like, wait a minute, those are totes owlbears. We need to do 104 damage in total, so you 2 attack this with your strongest attacks. And they totally like straight up video game it. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go for a DPS. And it's like,
And
now they're all on fire.
And you have lycanthropy.
And you have lycanthropy. And it's like, or, you know, something just completely different happens. It's like, oh, they totally know that those are owlbears. How about a hydra instead? How's that sound?
Well, that is one thing to do. Certainly, it's a thing. But I, as a dungeon master, I am all about
that base.
I'm all about that storyline.
Yep.
And if there is okay, in my world, there is no such thing as game balance.
Yep.
I don't even know what you're referring to.
Exactly. You are just as likely to meet a pit fiend at first level as you are to meet a kobold or a group of goblins or whatever.
That depends on where you are. I would more
Exactly.
I would more or less say you're more likely to meet a fiend worm than a pit fiend.
So, or a Linorn.
Stop logicking.
So, this is in my world. And so, it's all about the storyline.
Yep.
Okay? I pay no attention, intentionally. I pay no attention to challenge ratings, game balance, metered play, because that is Dungeon Master metagaming. Okay? I do not metagame as a Dungeon Master. I say what is supposed to happen in this story, and that's what's supposed to happen. The players, if they run headlong into something, well, you know, there's a pit fiend, or there's a fiend worm, or a Linorn, or some other kind of Horatio Hornblower of a monster, then the characters, if they run away, they get to live. If they go headlong into it thinking that I've placed it there for some esoteric reason, then they die. And if you as a human being are on like one of these idiotic reality shows like Naked and Afraid or whatever, and you see a swamp gator, do you as a human being say, oh, the producers have put this on here intentionally, it obviously only has a few hit points left? No, you don't say that. You go,
and run away. I have no armor and no weapon. Hey, look, an alligator. I should be able to kill that.
Right,
Wrangling
because
with my teeth.
Otherwise it wouldn't be here, because our dungeon master is putting game balance in the forefront of no.
Our dungeon master doesn't want us to die for being stupid. It's like,
Right. No,
You're
the
so
dungeon
wrong.
master wants you to die from being stupid. This one. If you're stupid, you die, because I'm all about that Darwinism.
well, it's like, but the thing is, that's what makes a player character is different. Because an NPC would try and attack the alligator and would probably die.
Might.
But player characters are a cut above the rest. That's why they're player characters.
Right, that's why no one has returned from the swamp of the giant alligator.
And the player characters do because
Because
player characters.
and they're smart.
Yes.
Player characters in my world, you have to be smart. Period. To survive.
Because giant alligators.
Because giant alligators at first level.
So what were the 3 things that you said that you can beat metagaming for? The first one was...
The first one was to penalize their experience points.
Mm.
The second one is to just talk to them mano a mano, or whatever.
Like, hey, dude, you're being a dick.
hey, dude, you're being a dick. That is a huge thing. And
Easiest way to do most things.
And that will mostly solve the problem.
Especially if you're close. Like if Ian
Yeah.
was being a dick, I'd be like, hey, Ian, you're being a dick.
You're being a dick. You're being a dick. And yeah. And the third way is to just expel them from the game. Say, you're metagaming. We don't allow that. You can't play with us anymore.
Punt.
You give them
Yeah.
like one chance, and
Yeah.
then I mean,
It's
because
like-
I'm all about forgiving and
Right.
forgetting, and I usually don't do that
So,
in that order. But
yeah.
I'm saying, like you be like, dude, like you can do number 2 and then number 3 of your options. And you're like, dude, you're being a dick, and you're like, no, I'm not. And then you're like, then you're out.
I would start with that. In levels of severity.
Right.
You would try and talk to him first. Say, dude, don't metagame.
not
This is
cool.
what metagaming is. They might not even know that they're metagaming or realize it.
Right.
You say, dude, you're being
Well,
a jerk.
I think-
It's ruining the fantasy. It's breaking the fourth wall. It's doing all kind of terrible things.
Well, in
Well, it's
the
called a role-playing game.
in the message, he said that Mark doesn't think that he's doing anything wrong.
Yeah, well, it is, Mark.
Sorry, Mark.
Mark.
If that's your
you're
real
being
name,
you're being
which
a dick,
it isn't.
Mark. But yeah, try and be cool about it first, because if you're friends, you're gaming, it should be friendly.
Mm-hmm.
So start with the friendly outcome first. Say, look, you may not think you're doing anything wrong, which is true. You may not think you're doing anything wrong, but it's not allowed in my game.
I'd
And-
prefer it if you didn't do
And I
it.
prefer if you didn't do it that way. If he keeps doing it, then you could say, okay, if you're going to insist on doing this, I'm going to start. What's the word I'm looking for?
Penalizing?
Penalizing or docking your experience points.
5.
You're going to get fewer experience points, and you're going to go up less quickly than the other players because of your metagaming, because it is not allowed in my game. That's a little more stern. Then, at the absolute extreme, if he continues doing it, go
Because at
Outta
that point, at the point that it comes
never
to
draw the actual sword. That's a bad idea.
at the point that it
We
gets to expulsion, they're probably doing it on purpose and
Right.
basically being a table troll. So
Right. And then there's no reason to even preserve a friendship.
Right, because I mean,
There's
if they're
deliberately
truly your
being a
friend
dick
and
like
they're
that.
Yeah.
truly doing it just for the game, then saying, "Hey, Broseph, you're metagaming really bad, and you're kind of making it unfun for the rest of us. Can you like tone it down just a tiny bit?"
No.
Okay, I'm gonna start taking experience points away from you if you don't knock it
My
off.
precious XPs.
And then he'll comment, and then it'll be good. I think that's
it.
That's
Yeah.
good. Okay,
Okay.
so
Next question.
next question. Hey, Tavern, I actually have a question for Lyric. Oh, okay. Not to sound sexist,
Yeah. Well, girl.
but is it hard to be a female gamer? Like, has that affected your experiences at all? I'm mostly curious because my girlfriend doesn't want to game because she feels threatened by the large male population in the gaming community. Thanks, Derek from Montana.
Okay. Is that the large male population or the large male population?
I don't
Because there are a
know.
lot of large
There
males.
are both.
There are, yes.
Well, this actually kind of goes with the first one that
And
we
those
talked about.
those are more threatening.
Yeah, they are.
Um,
yeah, it does actually. It goes along with Anna from New York.
But is it hard to be a female gamer? I actually have had probably one of the best experiences being a female gamer. Mostly because I grew up in a family of gamers. And most of that family were female. So,
Right.
and
And we have not a sexist bone in our bodies. I mean,
No.
I
I
have,
probably do, but I try not to.
I have 3 daughters.
No, you don't.
Every one of them knows how to change the oil and the spark plugs in their cars.
Vroom,
And the son that I have knows how to cook and sew and
Do laundry.
do laundry and everything. So
Wash my feet.
there is there is zero sexism in the tavern, which it might make it more difficult to answer that question.
Well,
actually,
I have a lot of experience dealing with equality. That's actually my minor in college. And I can understand looking at it from an outside person's point of view that the gaming community is really male heavy. And
Call me fat.
yes. And
heavy male heavy.
Heavy male heavy.
and I
Male,
think
heavy
that I mean I don't know the statistics. Someone could probably look that up later.
Yeah, the demographics.
And
Why don't we just say 45% of the males?
Well, actually,
no, it's a lot higher than that.
I'm saying are fat.
Oh, I was talking about the male-female demographic.
There are some demographics that state that as much as 97% of gamers are male.
Wow.
So that being
That's
said,
not an actual.
Also, 75% of all statistics
are made up on the spot. I know, but that's just.
I thought it was 43%.
Well, now it is.
But that being said, I don't think women should feel like discouraged or intimidated or pushed out of the gaming community just because there are dudes in it. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me that women. I mean, if you're surrounded by dudes who say you're a girl, you can't play, then find a different gaming group.
Yeah, because if they're going, you're a girl, you can't play, you probably shouldn't play with them anyway, because they sound like assholes.
Because they're not in the right mindset for your experience in gaming, and they'll probably discriminate against you the entire time you're gaming.
Yeah.
That being said,
play half work.
there are more females in the gaming community day by day, and since there's such a minority of us, we should definitely be pushing forward and breaking through that, because how else are we going to repopulate the gaming community and make it mainstream? So, I mean, I and my sisters and my mother, we're kind of like a rarity because we're so into the gaming community.
Right. Well, the thing is, though, from the time that Tavernator Lisa and I first began the Dwarven Tavern to now, there has been an explosion of females in the game, especially with the ever-growing popularity of cosplay and the like. But when our kids were first in gaming, we went to Gen Con and we were the only people with strollers. We went to one Gen Con back in 1992 or 93. Might have been 94, 95, but it was in that time period.
Back when we were wee lads and lasses.
Yeah, when they were just...
I may not have even been a wee lad at the time.
You might have been a wee twinkle in my eye, but... but there was a time when we had the only stroller at Gen Con. And now...
There are
the strollers everywhere.
Beep, beep.
Yeah, meaning, you can have a stroller between two guys. It's perfectly fine. But it's mostly men and women with their youngins. And that's a hugely encouraging sight.
Yep.
So, I don't think being a female has done anything with my experiences, because I've played both. I mean, I'm talking specifically Dungeons and Dragons because that's where I have most of my experience. But I think that, I mean, I've played both man and woman characters, and there's no difference to me.
Yeah.
And
well, we've all played male and female characters.
So I think if you are feeling threatened or intimidated or discouraged in any way whatsoever because of your gender, then you're not surrounding yourselves with the right persons.
Yeah.
You need to find a gaming group that does not care, or better yet, you need to teach a foo that being a female has nothing to do with your actual experience.
Play
as a gamer.
paladin, show them up.
Or your actual abilities.
Yes, that's the word I wanted.
The abilities, I mean, I have gamed with my daughters, I've gamed with my wife, I've gamed with lots of other females who have come into the tavern to play. And I have not seen any kind of a major distinction between the genders.
I mean, there
as
are
far
some...
as gaming ability and talent and imagination and creativity.
It's all,
and intelligence. It's all good.
Drive that pushes. I mean, the thing that drives and pushes some of the creativity and the experiences and how the characters are done and how people roleplay. Some of that can be influenced, mostly by people who have never gamed before. Like, some of my female friends only played females who looked and acted like them. But that has nothing to do with their gender. That only has to do with their experience and preference.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, I'm kind of not the best female to go off of because I don't technically consider myself
Because you
female.
play half-orcs?
And I play half-orcs. But I have to say that to answer this question in a clear, concise sentence, don't let the male population intimidate you because we do need more female gamers. And just use that female ability to bring more experience to the table. I think a well-rounded, gender-neutral experience is good for everybody.
And I think that is a generally, it's a good philosophy in general. We need more gamers, period, regardless of their gender, regardless of their sexual orientation, regardless of their skin type or phenotype traits, regardless of their creed and or religious background. If you want to game, you should be able to game.
Right,
Well,
or
because
class,
all of that
or
doesn't matter when...
It's social class.
If
and
you're role-playing, none of that
nationality,
matters.
ethnic background. Right, that's right. Because as soon as you start the game, everything that
like-
person was
It's
goes
like,
away.
I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay. It's like, I'm a dude, and I was like, she's a chick, but now I am Plasmo the Unlucky.
Plasma the unlucky, and that just sucks in general.
Well, I think that wraps it up for this moment. We have more questions that we'll answer in other videos, specifically from Leslie, Richie, Deshaw, Jersey, all those cute, wonderful, amazing people. So,
On behalf of the entire cast and crew of the Dwarven Tavern, we wish for you to want for nothing but adventure, and at first I feared it, then I charged. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you shortly.